Okay, so our process today is taking the idea of mandala and just kind of stretching it a little bit. We're going to do kind of our own version of it. We're going to focus on circles still. But before we jump in, I wanted to share just a few images and have just a little discussion first. So centering circles is what we're going to be kind of focusing on today. If you were with us in our art journaling group earlier in the week, we talked a little bit about an artist named Kandinsky. And so this may feel kind of like a little repeat, but I wanted to share some of his work and talk a little bit about his idea of what the meaning behind circles and color, because we're going to kind of take his idea and run with it today. So Kandinsky was an abstract expressionist painter. And so expressionism really is all about expressing emotions through strong colors and shapes. And so he's someone who loved using color. And we can see that in these two images. These are just a couple examples of his work. He was inspired by color. He used a variety of color in all his work. And he really felt that color can convey emotion without showing any particular like object or figure. He believed that color could tell a story. And in his work, circles were a recurring theme. And he painted them in a variety of ways. And we can see that in these two images here. He's one of a generation of artists really who use these really bold geometric shapes and colors. And it was kind of with the idea of refining art down to its kind of barest, simplest form or essence. And so circles, squares, triangles, they featured a lot in the work of a lot of like modernist paintings, modernist work. And it was used as like a symbol of life's core or life's essence. But Kandinsky specifically saw the dot as a small circle. And he would say that it's the most basic, most fundamental element of painting, that dot. Everything starts from a dot. You can draw a line, you can draw a shape, you can make it a circle, you can create any kind of variation, starting with that dot, that center dot. And so he really enjoyed the process of repeating these circles in a lot of his work. And we're just looking at two pieces right now, but you can see that there's a lot of repetition here, a lot of color, a lot of repetition. Yeah. So I want to, well, first, what do you guys think about these two pieces? What are some of the things you're noticing here? So let's move on to our next image because this one is the one I want us to kind of focus on today. And this is one I think we actually did talk about earlier in the week. But take a moment and look at this image here. This one is actually concentric circles. And so what that means basically is that these circles start from the same basic point. So it looks kind of like a target. And so we see lots of them in this image. But take a moment to look at this image. Notice the colors and the circles, the shape. What are some things that stand out to you in this piece? one of the things I want us to notice too is that, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, is that none of these shapes are perfect, right? The circles are lopsided, they overlap, or they're not quite circular circles. They're more bulbous, maybe. Some of the colors overlap, don't finish. But I just want to kind of emphasize for a moment that nothing is perfect here. It's very loose. And so it kind of goes with this idea that we've talked about in many, many different weeks and many different groups, that there's beauty in the imperfection, right? That wabi-sabi, beauty in the imperfection. And I think this one is full of those quote unquote imperfections. But this is an artist, Kandinsky, who is well known, considered a master in his field. And this is a painting that hangs, it's in a permanent spot hanging. And so it's considered like high art, but it's clear that there's imperfections in it. And so I just want to kind of emphasize that too. When we look at these, it's several squares in here that have the different circles. And so one of the questions I want to ask is, does the overall piece have like one emotion that it brings up, or are there different emotions that kind of come up in these each of these individual squares? Kandinsky wasn't focused on making these circles perfect circles. And I think this goes back to his idea that circles, not circles, but colors can convey emotion, they can convey meaning. And so I think what really is behind this painting isn't that he's making these perfect circles, but that he's showing these emotion or telling a story in these colors. So what we're going to do today is kind of be inspired by this painting, by Kandinsky's concentric circles, keeping that idea of the mandala in our mind, starting with that center point and working our way out. But I wanted to challenge us today to really focus on the circles. Think about the colors that you're bringing in, the meaning behind those colors. I know in other groups, and in another video, we talk about the color meanings and how colors can have meanings, different meanings to us individually, but they can also have universal meanings or cultural meanings. And so I want to challenge us today to really think about the colors that we're using as we're building our centering circles today. And so I have just a little example that I found online that I think is just like a great example of building these circles up. You know, we've seen Kandinsky, how he makes his, and this one is a really nice example because you start seeing the dots and patterns that are kind of forming inside these rings as well. So if you have your paper ready, whether it's your journal page or an extra piece of paper, go ahead and pull that out. I'm going to start with my pen today, but I'm going to bring in some color. So whatever supplies you have today to do your centering circles, go ahead and pull those out. I think the best way to start any kind of process is to lay out those supplies so it's all right in front of you. Let's go ahead and just kind of relax into our chair where we're sitting. Just kind of take a deep breath and use this time as a time of focus, right? Centering in on that center dot that we're going to start with and building it out. I know that sometimes when we're making art, I know for me, sometimes I'll speed up when I get really into it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to encourage you to really be intentional about slowing down for our process today. taking your time with it. So you may get one circle done, you may get two, and either way is okay. You'll be able to see what I'm doing, and of course, you're welcome to follow along with me, or strike out on your own and use other designs and patterns. But once you have your paper out, whether it's your journal or an extra piece of paper, I want to encourage you to go ahead and take your pen or pencil, whatever you're starting with, and go ahead and do that center dot. Remembering that Kandinsky said that dot is the beginning of everything. It starts the line, it starts shapes. So let's start with that center dot. And then I'm going to go ahead with my pen and just start drawing some circles around it. I'm going to encourage you to do that too, knowing they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be the same distance. Go ahead and draw a few of those circles. When you're ready, just go ahead and start adding color and pattern. And know that whatever mark you make is right. Whatever color you use is right. I know I want to encourage you to think about those colors that you're choosing and the meaning behind them. But just kind of let your hand guide you today. Don't try to think about using the same colors in the same family or anything like that, or matching colors, but really take a moment to think about the meaning behind those colors that you're choosing. And so I'm going to start by taking my colors, and I want to encourage you to do that too. Start adding those colors and those patterns. And again, you're welcome to follow along with me or strike out on your own, knowing either way is good. Just start building that centering circle. Those concentric circles. And take your time with it. Knowing whatever mark you make, whatever color you choose is right and good. Because there's no wrong way to do it. And don't try to, I want to encourage you not to try to plan, but just kind of let the drawing happen, let your hand guide you. You kind of trust that process of creating today. Whether it's just doing circles of color, creating patterns in each of those circles. Just take your time building that up. Starting at that center point, that dot, the beginning of everything. And just building it up. If you find yourself getting a little distracted or finding your mind starting to wander just a little bit, know that that's okay. Your mind is just doing what it was meant to do. Um, just be gentle with yourself and guide your thoughts back to that centering circle, to that concentric circle that's being formed right in front of you. Know that it doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be the most circular circle. It's all about slowing down, being present. Maybe you're like me, and when you really get into that drawing, you start going faster and picking up speed. Know that that's okay too. But I want to encourage you to try and slow down just a little bit. Um, and if that means setting your color down, your pen down for a moment and taking a breath, know that that's okay. Take the breath. And pick up your pen or your marker and continue that drawing. We're not focused on perfection today. We're very much focused on that drawing and making those marks. However that looks. Whether it's making those patterns in each of those rings or just doing rings of color. Know that whatever you're making is exactly what needs to be made. And just take your time with it. Layer by layer. Knowing that it doesn't matter if the lines are crooked. It doesn't matter if you color outside the lines you made. What really matters is that mark you're making, and that you're making that mark. And again, I know it's hard to kind of get that idea of perfection and making it right. It's hard to get that idea out of our head. Um, and I know sometimes what helps me, because I do in my art, I want it to be right and just right and to look right. And it's hard to get that idea out of my mind. But what helps is just remembering that there is beauty in the imperfection of it, because that process of making is is beautiful, right? That making part, that focusing on that mark making. So whether it's adding those colors or creating that pattern, however it looks, is good. And just take your time with it today. Maybe it means just doing color, or doing color and pattern. Maybe it's repeating that same pattern over and over again. Again, whatever mark you make is good. Whatever color you use is good. And however it looks is good. And I just want to encourage you to take your time with it today. Try not to think about planning the next step or the next mark. And let your hand guide you. Maybe you're getting to the end of your page. Know that that's okay. Maybe you're like me and you have a long way to go, and that's okay too. I know letting go of that idea of making it right is hard to do. But I want to encourage you to keep going through it. Even if that means like visualizing, taking that idea out of your mind and setting it aside. Or if that means saying over and over again, it's okay. Whatever I do is okay. Again, if you find yourself kind of rushing through the mark making, it's okay to set that pen down for just a moment and take a breath. Physically slow yourself down. And then continue. And if you feel your mind wandering just a little bit, know that that's okay. Just be gentle with yourself and guide your thoughts back to these concentric circles, to these centering circles. Maybe your piece looks a lot like Kandinsky's. Maybe yours looks a lot like mine. Maybe it looks completely different. And any way it looks is okay. And just take your time today. Building those layers up, adding those circles, filling your page. And try not to focus on that end result, which I know is kind of hard. I know that's hard to do. It's hard for me to do. Give yourself permission to enjoy this process. I know that our time is coming to a close. It always feels like it goes by so fast. Um, but whatever you're working on, start coming to a stopping place. I know I've got a lot more that I want to do with my circle here. Um, know that your circle doesn't have to be finished today. It doesn't have to be finished in our time together. It's something you can always come back to and complete at a later time, or you can just continue on today. Maybe the circle needs to be finished. Maybe the circle needs to stay unfinished. And again, either way is okay. So whatever mark you're making right now, whatever color you're using, go ahead and start finding that stopping place, finishing that layer. And I want to encourage you, once you put that pen down, that color down, I encourage you to take a moment and just look at the circle that you just made. Notice the colors and the marks. Really focus in on those colors. Notice the color that you started with and the color that you ended with. And think about just a moment the meaning behind that, what those colors mean to you, or what they could mean. And it's okay not to know. Just take a moment to think about that.